What's going on, yo? Welcome back to SteveBussaGS. We got another scorecard interview with y'all, and this is a GSGang exclusive. I do believe we have our very first Canadian interview that's popping on the channel. I'm being joined by one, the only B1, the architect. My guy, what's going on, family? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Dude, I'm stoked to have you here.
Yeah, man. I'm excited too. Let's get it.
You're about to give me so many bonus points. You have no idea. So my quality team is actually the one that put me onto you and your whole crew with the lunchroom poets when I first discovered you guys. So like right now behind the scenes, my squad is geeked the fuck out for this interview.
Awesome, man. I'm glad someone's excited for it. Let's go.
So yeah, what do you want everyone to know about you? Give us a brief rundown. Who is B1? And let's go from there with just the basics for someone who for the people who have no idea who you are.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Right now. I'll assume nobody knows who I am. So I'm B1 the architect from Toronto, Canada. I'm a producer, engineer, video editor, MC. I sing a little bit. I do a lot of different things musically. I've been involved with music and working on it for about 10 years, just over a decade. But I've been only pushing my shit out and under the name B1 the architect for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm relatively new to the game, but I'm not new to the music side of it, if you feel me.
That's fair. How much work would you say you actually have under your name then that's out? Like for 10 years?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot. Under B1 the architect, even in the last 4 years, I put out like maybe 6-7 albums, like tons of singles. My group Blade Runners has 4 albums out. Lunchroom Poets has 2 projects. So between everything, like dozens of projects, tons of shit for people to check out.
And if someone who would be interested in your music, like if you're into X, Y, and Z, like I got stuff for you. If you're into X, Y, and Z, then this is more for you.
Yeah, and see, this is one of the hardest ones for me to answer because I definitely do a lot of different stuff for different demographics.
I got like 3 different demographics that you appeal to on my channel just in reactions alone. So I'm kind of baiting you into this just to talk you up a bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's one thing I've been trying to figure out is in terms of marketing and stuff is where to prioritize, because I have the boom bap lyricist side of myself, which is definitely like 90s New York inspired, but then I also have like progressive rock side, electronic stuff that I'm really into, some singing. I'm really into neo soul and jazz and shit. So I do a lot of stuff with R&B singers and soul singers. I do a lot of collaborative stuff with them. So there's a lot of different demographics I theoretically can and will tap into. It's just finding the one that sticks and then trying to build the audience around that.
So you're not the first artist by a long shot that I've had on here that is multifaceted, right? So
no, of course not.
When you're so good at all those things, how do you identify yourself to someone? Like, do you identify as a rapper, or do you identify as a producer who makes music? How do you personally see yourself?
That's an amazing question, and that's something that we're always trying to figure out. I like to go just by like an artist, like a general artist, because I feel like that encapsulates my mission to create art in different types. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be inaccurate to call me a rapper. It wouldn't be inaccurate to call me a producer. It's just when you're multiple things, it's hard to summarize it. So I usually just say I'm an artist, I'm the architect, and that's the easiest way to quickly encapsulate what I represent.
Got you. Now, as far as like the production, sound engineering inside of that and everything, is that just for your own personal music, or do you also like as a business, like you also like produce? I know you said you said with like the jazz and the neo soul stuff. Are you rapping on those, or are those like strictly production?
Bit of both. Like I have some stuff where I am like collaborating with other artists, and I am doing vocals and rapping and singing, and then I have other ones where I'm just on the production, just on the mixing. I've done it, and yeah, like so I do it as a business. If anyone's ever interested, hit me up. But I do it for the last like 6-7 years. It's been my primary job. So it has its ups and downs working for yourself, but I do really enjoy it, and I
don't be surprised if people hit you up of that too. Leave your details in the comments. I'll pin your comment, and if anyone wants to reach out to you,
absolutely,
and get that international connection going, that'll be fucking dope.
Absolutely, man.
So this brings us, so let me give a little bit of a timeline for everybody, because this is why I'm so stoked about this, right? So I've never heard of these cats before in my life. My quality team brings them in front of me. I'm like, all right, cool. I push it off probably for like a few weeks, if I'm being honest with you, right? Just because I had never heard of you guys. We finally get around and we do, it was like that the Wu-Tang joint that you guys all did, the posse cut. And I was fucking hooked. Like as soon like I was like, oh, now I get it. So like sometimes I ignore my quality team because they be trying to troll me and shit like that. And like I gotta take everything so often. I'll be sitting here listening to something. I'll be like, I can't post this. This is I can't. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So I immediately realized that not only was I taken back by the crew as a whole, but like the sound was so 90s boom bap, like it was hip hop, dog. Like it gave you that feeling. Like I'm not listening to somebody trying to rap, right? Like I'm listening to cats who are in their fucking bag, right? Now, at that time, I believe I'm on record. If you guys go check the reaction, I'm not just capping this for the interview. You were my favorite from the jump. I was geeked out. You had the punchline flow. I'm from Philly. That shit's gonna win me over 10 times out of 10. But with that being said, there wasn't really like a weak link on that track.
No, that was one of the things.
Yeah, like everybody brings this shit. I following from that, we've tapped into a lot of your individual side, and I've noticed that when I did that, I was surprised is the wrong word. But having come from like, man, I only ever heard this dude do fucking punchline cipher, right? And now we're getting into like deep tracks about mental health. You know what I mean? With like hooks that are meaningful and like meant to elicit emotional reaction, not just like, hey, I can bar somebody to death. Like now we're into the poetic side of things and seeing you tap into that. You know what I mean? Like that was super fire. What do you prefer personally? How do you consider yourself a because most of your individual stuff is like enlightened. Like I get like that conscious vibe, and then the second I see somebody else on the track, you'd be ready to take somebody's fucking head off.
Yeah, it's a push and pull, because on the one side I'm a competitor. Like I grew up playing competitive sports my whole life. I love to compete. I love high level competition. Whenever I hear top level lyricists and people, I want to work with them and I want to try and have the best verse on the track. So there's that side of me that I still love, and that's part of the essence of hip hop. But in terms of like what I artistically represent, what I want to create for my solo work and like that kind of thing, I would say I lean more into the conscious side, and not even just conscious, because a lot of my albums and stuff are like pretty dark, and it's not necessarily like a message of like kumbaya or let's fucking hug each other or some crazy shit. It's just very honest. It's very like transparent and introspective into my mind. And I just like, when I'm getting deep on a record, it's coming from a place of I'm trying not to think about how people perceive it. I'm not trying to think about what's trendy, what any of that shit. I'm just trying to vent my heart and soul on a record. Period.
So for those tracks, right? Would you say that you are more of a write from experience person or write to a topic? Like when we hear this music, are you going through it, or is this like, this is a cool concept, watch how I bring this to life?
Yeah, I think with a lot of artists, and myself included, I think it's always like a little bit of both. Because you always pull from some sort of experience, whether it's firsthand or you witnessed it or whatever. But there's also tracks where you just get like, okay, this concept is really cool, so I'm going to take my little bit of experience from my life, apply it, broaden it to something that might affect other people, and then you combine it. You combine the artistic liberty with your own experiences, and then that's kind of where you find something that I think other people can really relate to and shit like that.
Yeah. And do you feel like those are more fulfilling afterwards?
I'd say so, yeah. It's the kind of shit that I end up like listening back to repeatedly and just like really loving. Like I make a lot of the songs when I'm like when we're barring out and I'm going back and forth with somebody, like that shit's super dope and I love it. But it's like kind of like I got to be in the mood for it, like at the gym or something. I'll throw that on, no doubt. But I feel like the deeper cuts, the stuff that just comes super naturally to me, that's the stuff that I can just like listen to any day. Like, and I know that's not the same for everybody, because some people might find the more darker side of stuff like they can only listen to that in certain moods. They can't be like in the car listening to depressing shit.
See, that's ironic. So I just did an interview with Paper Corleone. Shout out to Paper from Nigeria last week. And one of the things that we talked about was that, you know what I mean? Where it's like, man, like I like also like the whole like, I want to give you a peel behind the curtain almost. You know what I mean? Like we all feel this stuff. But he's like, yo, like when you are in those zones, like we were talking about a song that I felt like was unfinished and could use an additional verse. And like the conversation was like, man, like you have to get into that headspace when you're creating that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to appreciate it if you're not sad anymore. Like you got to come
Yeah,
back
yeah.
when
That's
you're
true, too.
sad to really get that to get that knife in the gut again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess depending on the degree of it, like if it's one of those like real like cutting deep into something painful tracks, then yeah, I can definitely feel that, where it's like you got to be in the right headspace to even like appreciate that shit. But yeah,
Or
I
maybe
read a
not
lot.
appreciate, but like layers. At least layers. Like
Yeah,
you can appreciate, you can listen to something, not
yeah,
feel
yeah,
it, and know it's good. But like
yeah,
when you're crying too,
yeah, exactly. That then it hits you in the gut and you feel it on a different level. Yeah, absolutely.
dude, absolutely. So that brings us up. So I tap into his music. I become a fan, right? At this point, I've listened to more than a handful of tracks from him. I don't think, honest to God, I don't think Lunchroom Poets have a single miss as a group. I don't think B1 has a single miss as an individual on the entire channel. So like, go look it up, tap in. You're gonna find different styles. You'll find something that you like to sink your teeth into. That led us up to us. I don't even remember who reached out to who or how we connected, but we connected right around the time that the GSGC 2023 last year was about to pop off. And I shot my shot. I was like, hey, this thing's going on. If you want to hop in, come tear this shit up. And like, yo, you hop right on that shit and you crushed that shit too. What walk us through from your perspective how all that unfolded?
Yeah, so actually the reason I reached out to you was because I know you connected with Philly from LRP as well.
Yeah.
He sent you a couple joints off his project with KP and I think another one of his solo things or something. So I saw you guys connect and then I was like, yo, I don't have any relationship with anyone who does reactions or anyone who like puts on new artists and shit. I should reach out to this dude. And you seem like a good dude. So I hit you up. And then right away you were like, yo, you just hit me up at the right time because we got this contest. And then, yeah, from there, I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. And that's because I'm at that stage of my career where it's like, I'm just trying to get myself out there and to new audiences and new people and have new ears. So there's no harm in hopping in different contests, hopping in anywhere and
see, not a lot of people. I agree with you. But a lot of people don't think like that. So you're the type that's like, yo, if I see a challenge and I got a time slot free, like you have no problem just mixing in with some shit. I mean, obviously you did it, but like in general, is that how like your perspective is?
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm in the studio and I got a mic right here and you got a contest that could potentially expose me to new people, why the fuck not, right? Win or lose, it's just there's no downside to it. Even if I didn't win, like when I released that on my own page, it did big numbers on my Instagram. So like it was good content for me. It was just, there's no downside to doing that kind of thing. And I think more artists need to be open to, you know, collaborating, working with new channels, new people. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
And what was exciting for me is that this is, whether you know it or not, that ends up being like your first opportunity of getting exposed, or for my people to get exposed to you who may not normally tap in, like when they see just your name. You know what I'm saying? If they don't know who you are, they may not tap in. But now that you're involved with something that their favorites are involved in, now they're forced to listen to you and be like, let's see what the fuck, who's trying to cook my guy? You know what I mean? Like, let's see what he's cooking. And then I don't think I seen a list by the end of it that you weren't mentioned in like people's top 5 overall. And that's what a lot of bias, like they don't have reason to be unbiased like I do. Like that's what a lot of bias that you're fighting through. And for people to still be like, the quality was there. Like, you know what I mean? Like this shit was solid. You know what I mean? Like that, did that feel good for you? Like, was there anything different, like seeing comments from like a different demographics that may not have ever heard you before?
Yeah, like I appreciate anybody listening at the end of the day. I'm really humble in the sense that like I'm not humble in terms of my ability, but I'm humble in the sense that I don't feel entitled to anybody's time. I don't feel like there's a million fucking artists out here, and if anyone takes the time to listen to me or a verse of mine or a song of mine or an album of mine, I'm fucking eternally grateful. But at the same time, I'm also competitive in the sense that if I don't like win, I'm just like, you know, keep moving. You know, like I want to win, so when I don't win, I'm like, fuck. Just keep going. I'm gonna win the next one. That's how.
Let's put you in the hot seat real quick. All right, so there was about 20 significant entries into that contest, right?
Yeah.
Did you happen to check out any other than your own? Like, did you check out the competition?
Yes, I did check out the competition. I'm not gonna remember names off the top of my head. I could go through and look, but I did check out at least like 7, 8, 9. I went through a bunch of them. And there was some really good shit. Critics was super dope, the one that won, of course. Who was your homie you put me on to as well?
Kufis?
Yeah, his was super dope too. Yeah, those two were incredible. I don't remember the names of a few other ones, but there was some other really good ones too. So I was impressed by the amount of like variety too. Like I remember you sent me one where a dude was talking about his mother or someone. Yeah, that was really dope too. It was dope to see someone approach it from a place of like, oh, I'm not even trying to bar out, I'm just gonna tell you a story. So there was a lot of variety and different styles, different cultural identities and shit, because people are sending it from different countries. And yeah, I thought it was dope, man. It was exciting because a lot of the time when I do contests, it's like local in Canada or it's in the States, and you hear a lot of dudes rapping the same kind of way, right? But when you do a big international competition, you get such a variety of different cultures and voices and styles, and it's I fuck with it. It's dope.
Bro, it blows your mind when you realize how much talent just exists in the world. That like
it's insane, yeah.
It's bro. Have you listened to anything from other countries off the channel at all?
I've listened to, so I just recently checked out the cipher that you did the reaction to, the Chocolate City cipher here, and I got put on to all these guys. These are from Nigeria, right?
Yeah, you mind talking? So everybody there is incredibly talented.
Yeah.
To like a disgusting degree in their own fields.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoon feed you anything. I don't want to feel like I'm leading the witness here. Mm-hmm. What was your opinion of it? Who was your favorites, or what was your takeaway while you were listening?
Well, first things that caught me off guard, I was like, because I have heard some international ciphers. Like I've seen like ones from France, some European ones, some ones from different countries where I was like, and you hear some people, and it's like, I don't know if it's a translation issue, if they don't speak English as a first language, and so that they tend to be a little more simpler in their bar structure and their multisyllabics and stuff. So I'm always like very open-minded to that kind of thing when I listen to different countries' things. But I didn't really have to do that with this one. These guys like really rap. And it was pretty much the whole way through. I was just like, okay, they all had different styles and different like levels to their pen, but they were all super dope. In terms of my personal favorites, first listen, I'd probably say AQ, Jesse Jags, and MI Abaga. But yeah, they were all dope, and it was cool to see a country that I was unaware had a big hip hop scene just putting on for artists like that and killing it. So yeah,
see, that's gang shit, baby. That's the GS gang. That's what you get here. That's super dope to hear. Also, my MVP you didn't even mention, Loose Cannon, actually ended up being
shit. My
favorite John from there. No, that's good. But saying like that's dope, because like this is giving, like, if any of them happen to catch an interview or something like that, right? Like they get like, if first of all, there's two things. Number one, if you have X amount of people on a track and each one of them are somebody's MVP, you did something right. Like that's a fire squad that you got there.
No, exactly. It kind of reminded me of what we did with the LRP joints, where it was like every time we would look in the comments, it'd be like everyone had a different MVP, because it's like, no, there's no weak link. And
there's really not. Now, the more you learn about those cats too, those Nigerian cats you were listening to, like every one of them has songs and bodies of work that would go on your personal, the same way I talk about your shit. Like, like you will have songs that you're gonna just put on your playlist because it's that good. And like, man, you're gonna find that, dog, everywhere. Like it's crazy. Like you can't dig into a music scene in a different country anywhere in the fucking world and not find just gems. It's like, why does everybody in the world not know this exists? Like this shit is fucking crazy, dog. So
it's crazy.
I think that's just cool. I would love to actually get you connected with some guy. Would you ever be interested in doing international?
Absolutely. I would love to collab with these guys. I would love to produce beats for them. If anyone needs any services or anything, like I would love to connect with these dudes for sure. For sure.
Let's go. Look, man, we got the fucking Africa-Canada connection here going, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah. And I know lots of MCs from out here too that are incredible, that are killers on the mic, that would love to work with people internationally and shit like that.
Look,
so
be my plug. I need you to like put me on to the scene.
I can definitely do that. I can definitely
get me in touch with tracks, get me in touch with some cats to do these interviews too who may want to do it. Like, let's get the scene as much exposure as we can. You know what I mean? That's my goal here.
I'm on board, bro.
That's super dope. Now, we talked about some stuff personally. Now let's ask the hard question before we get to the philosophical stuff. All right. Yeah. Do you think I cheated you on the GSGC, or do you feel like you should have won it? From your own, as unbiased as you possibly can, would you have given yourself the win if you were the judge?
As unbiased, that's kind of hard when you
it's impossible, but try.
It's impossible. I think there was a few bars you slept on, but overall, I'm not mad at it because Critic was super dope, and so was Koofy. So it was like I feel like any of the three of us took it, I wouldn't be mad. That's how I looked at it. So I'm not mad at all. He was super dope. But I feel like there's a few sleeper bars in there, but it is what it is. Either way, everyone was when three dudes are coming that nice and different styles, you just pick your favorite at that point. Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
It's dope. It's dope to hear how much feedback you actually got from the gang too, whether it's like on Twitter with different conversations that we were having. We ran polls. I know you're not on there, so I try to give you the heads up.
Yeah, you gotta let me know. That's a platform I need to get on and start using, because a lot of people the reason I don't use it is people in Canada don't fucking use it. But I'm trying to get out of Canada, so I need to hop on it. That's the thing.
For like using it is cancer. Don't get me wrong. Twitter is absolutely cancer.
Yeah.
But
for
the connection ability of it, if you like how I personally use it, most of my interviews stemmed from Twitter DMs or tagging people and shit like that, and just starting that genuine conversation. You know what I mean? So it's like it definitely has an upside. It's all what you make of it, like anything else, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a platform where I've definitely slept on. TikTok and Twitter are the two where I'm just like, I was being an old head and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to fucking do that. But then I as soon as I realize anything that can connect me with people isn't a bad thing. So that's where I'm at now.
That's a great way of looking at it. 100%. And that led that the GSGC led to B1 and I having a super dope conversation. I think we went back and forth like 100 verses each in fucking voice notes. At one point, we were just fucking ciphering like old freestyles and shit like that. And you brought up a really good philosophy that we started to talk about, and I cut him off. I was like, nah, save this for the interview. Like, let's get into this on the jump. So let's dig into it. You made a comment, and I'll let you clarify it because you know we've already done the first part of this conversation. But like, the original comment was in the philosophy of writing, like what your end goal is. You said that you make music for the sonics. You don't necessarily make music for the back-to-back haymakers, and that's it, right? And to me, I understood that when you said it, and then listening back to like, you know, the GSGC and like the emphasis on patterns versus layers necessarily or stuff like that, right? And then I said to him, I was like, so would you like, is that the difference between people like an artist who identifies as like, you know, I make music, or I'm a musician, I'm a rapper, versus someone who identifies as a lyricist? And you could this is where the big convo started happening. We cut it off. So let's like try and pick it up from there.
Oh yeah. So I think you can be both to differing degrees. I think a lot of people who are like the ultra picky with the pen kind of people who sit there and kind of go over bars over and over and over again, and they have like pristine verses that are incredible, but they don't necessarily know how to write a hook or structure a song or structure an album. I think those are like specialists. You know what I mean? They're like in the military, they'd be like the sniper, just sitting there. They do the one thing extremely fucking well. They're the go-to for that. I think I'm more multifaceted in the sense that I want to achieve a different thing, in the sense that like the end goal for me is creating a discography, creating a bunch of albums that like each project is like a story or like a movie you sit down and take in, because I'm a big film guy. So like for me, whenever I make an album, I'm thinking soundtrack shit. I'm thinking like, how is this like the score for a movie in my head kind of thing. And so I kind of want to take people through a journey and shit. And so when I'm writing, it's more about the storytelling. It's more about expression of mood and theme and things like that, rather than like every bar being a setup or a punch or a double meaning, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just it's a different focus, though I do have verses where in the past I've been on that kind of lyricist tip and I just want to slaughter people. It depends on the end game and the objective. But generally I would say on my solo projects, on my songs, I'm more into the sonics, I'm more into the themes, I'm more into the storytelling. But I think there's a big place for both, and I respect the fuck out of both.
So let me ask you this. This is gonna, again, another like bait question here to get to a larger conversation.
Yeah.
What you said to me, like everything that you just said, sounds like somebody who's trying to blow up, right? Like I want to have marketable sound. I want music that's going to be timeless. I want, you know what I mean? Like I want to be famous. I want to be on the radio. Like you're trying to make like a business move, right? Would you say that that's accurate?
Actually, not at all. I would say
okay.
No, no disrespect. I just mean in the sense that the reason I care about the Sonics and stuff is more, it comes more from an artistic place to my own detriment. I wish it was about the business because then, it'd be easier to blow up. But I don't, I don't trend chase. I don't take what's popping and like try and incorporate that into my music. I don't try to sound like Drake or The Weeknd because I'm from Canada. I just make the shit that I want to fucking make at the end of the day. And it comes from a very authentic place, I would say. Even though, yeah, that's all I place it. And it's not the sense that like, of course, I would love to blow up off my music and achieve. I'd like to be independently wealthy and control my music and have a big fan base that appreciates it. But I'm not trying to be, superstar. That's just not. I just don't see the type of music I make.
So let me ask you a question then, because then I'm dead wrong about my perspective I was about to hit you with, which is cool. That's the whole point of the interview is to get the right answers. You know what I mean? So then like to me, it sounded like it was like the difference between MCs who identify as underground rappers. Like I make music, you know what I mean? Like I'm here to rap.
Yeah.
I'm not here to get on the radio. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm here for like, there are rappers like who write to impress rappers. And then there are rappers who write to impress masses.
Got you. Yeah.
Right. What you described to me translates as you write music for the masses. And me with a battle rap background, like we're writing to outsmart each other who are already thinking on the third layer, you know what I mean, for each bar that we're going to. But it's also why we don't make great music usually.
Right.
Where's the trade-off with you? Like, because like I do think that at a certain point, there's a difference between being complex and being so convoluted that it doesn't make sense.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. And that's something I tried to trim out of my writing style over the years was like when I first came out, I feel like a lot of MCs do this when you first start writing, when you're young and shit, you want to just cram in the biggest words. You want to have the longest multisyllabics. You want to have the craziest entendres. It was all about the most complex writing. And then, but at a certain point, it's not palatable. It doesn't sound good. So that's something I chiseled down over the years in terms of efficiency, in terms of like what needs to be there, what gets the point across. It could still be complex and it could still be wordy at times, but it has to sound really good. And I wouldn't necessarily say I make music for the masses. I think underground hip hop gets a misconception in the sense that like there's different types of underground. There's underground hip hop that's like what you were describing, where it's just people trying to take each other's heads off, the best lyrical shit in the world. And then there's underground because it's different, because it's sonically just not palatable to most people. And I would say I'm not trying to make music that isn't palatable for everybody. I just make music for myself, and I know it's not going to be palatable for anybody, for everybody. Sorry, hopefully somebody. But like I have some shit that's pretty experimental with sounds and styles that I would never expect to reach everybody, but I know the people who would be passionate about it would be very passionate about it. So I would say the style is kind of niche. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's like for the masses, but it's for music listeners and music heads, if that makes sense, rather than just trying to impress battle rappers or whatever.
So give me in these scenarios, I'm trying to like put myself in your mind with this, right?
Yeah.
Whose thumbs up means the most to you?
That's a great question. And so this leads into what we were talking about really well, because it does depend on the track, but a lot of the time I get the best feedback and I get the most encouraging feedback from my producer homies. So I have a lot of rapper homies and I have a lot of producer homies. I appreciate both of your feedback, but because I am a music guy, I'm trying to make albums, I'm trying to reach people on a musical, emotional level. When I send it to like producers I respect, who are high level musicians who play their own instruments and they're incredible musicians, and they like hear it and they're like, this is musically incredible, I love this. That means the world to me. Not to say when I send something to my rapper homies and like, yo, you spaz on this, that means a lot too. But at the end of the day, I think I really appreciate, I would say like I'm a producer rapper 50-50, but like some days I edge 60-40 towards producer, if that makes sense. But it's pretty close.
Yeah, I'd say that matches what you've said, like consistently. Like I feel like your philosophies so far overall match with the actual product that you put out. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm putting the dots together as you're saying it. And it's like, that makes sense. So like the last one on this tip then. So like you would personally, me personally, I get way more fulfilled. I get way more like geeked out over
Right.
45 minutes on one bar that I just got absolutely like you were talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Like
that to me
yeah.
is fucking that's like it. Like that's the fucking zenith. That's what you're going for. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I want that one where it's like, man, I started with this bar and it was trash, but the concept was cool. Now the
Right.
concept's cool, but the multis weren't there. Now the multis are there, but there's no setup isn't like relevant. It's filler.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just like the constant go back and refine, go back and refine. Like I think like that's what I get enjoyment out of. But I also don't have the ability to make music like you do. Like I don't make good music. And I think like that's to me why I lean and put so much emphasis on lyricism, because that's what I go for. Because and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can say, you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like I don't have that gift of creating music, but like I like making people feel bad about themselves by saying mean things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Fuck 'em,
it's
man.
like take what makes you happy and run with it type thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. That's the thing is, and yeah, it's kind of a push and pull for me because it's not that I can't do that or I couldn't do that if I wanted to. It's just a lot of the time I don't get the same fulfillment from that I do from making a great song or something coming together. It's more of like a full picture thing. Like I'm a composer and I hear once everything's put together, the mix is in place, the beat's sounding right, the vocals are in there, the hooks mixed properly. Everything coming together is where I get that like same satisfaction of like, fuck yeah, everything sounds amazing. I do enjoy the process of writing, but I write really quick, like really, really quick. And it's not because I'm trying to force it or because I'm like, oh, fuck, get this over with. It's just I find that's the most honest place that I write from in my experience. Is when I just like there's songs and stuff that I've written that are like you could almost borderline classify as a freestyle because I sat there and penned an 80 bar verse in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It was just like my hands are just moving like this on the keyboard. And that was one thing when we were doing the LRP thing with the group. We would show up to the studio and we would sit there for a writing session for a song or for an album, and I'd be done in 10 minutes. And then I'm like sitting there waiting for everybody because they're more like you, like even KP and Stitch come from the battle rap background. So a lot of those guys are like chiseling on bars. Like, how can I switch this up? Yo, what was that movie from fucking blah, blah, blah? Like, let me throw that in there. You know what I mean? They're kind of like chipping away at it. Whereas with me, it's just kind of like it flows out in a way that I like to consider natural, that it feels right to me. Words come to me very easily. But with that said, there are times where I wish I had gone back and edited stuff and like spent more time with it. But it depends on the type
Makes
of track.
sense.
It
So like
completely, yeah.
yeah, you bring up like a great point like with the type of track. So like that environment, right?
Yeah.
Is it so like I don't want to like focus on the group dynamic or anything like that, but like when you have 4 to 17 people on any given track, I
Yeah.
feel like that's got to put you in a different like
It does.
Are you no longer writing to satisfaction? You're now trying to outright the person that's to your left and to your right? Or is it more like, man, I know they're going to do this, so let me come with something different?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
where are you at with that?
So I think it kind of grew. I've been in groups a couple times and I've done collab projects with people a few times now. So I feel like I've kind of found my comfort zone of like, I'm going to do what you're not doing more so than I'm going to try and beat you at what you do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because when
on balance.
yeah, exactly. When I first joined LRP back in like 2018, 2019, and I was exposed to all these dudes for the first time, I think those first few verses, and that's probably why you picked me up on the Triumph verse, was because at that time I think I was like kind of competing. It was like, all right, who's got the craziest
Right.
punchline or most memorable line, or like I was kind of competing on that style. But as we kind of kept making music together, I realized like we all appeal to different demographics. So the more I kind of lean into what I do, the more I think it benefits the overall song, because then you got B1 doing this, you got Lotus doing this, you got Philly doing the melodic shit. You got, so if everyone kind of leans into what really makes them themselves, I think that's best for the end product. And that's what I have been doing with my other collabs and stuff that I've learned from that, is like whenever I collaborate with somebody, it's not about me trying to kill you on a song. It's about how do we make a great song. And if I can go in a direction that you can't go because that's more my lane, then I'm going to do that usually. But yeah, it just depends on the song. If it's a cipher, maybe I'm trying to kill you. But if it's a song, I'm probably just trying to benefit the song.
So with that being said, we're gonna proceed with this conversation under the assumption that you have the ability to compete with top level lyricism, and that you've now made the decision that good music isn't 90% lyrics, 10% melody, that your mix for what makes music good is more equally distributed than my philosophy of 99% lyrics and try to clap on beat. You know what I mean? Like it's different for you, you'd say, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
I'd say so.
So do you ever find, like, this is my question, like I'm trying to put myself in this position, stuff that would like eat at me and cause me issues and stuff. Like I'm trying to like put myself, there. So like while you're doing that, are you cognizant of you being crushed on a track when it happens? And then the second okay.
Oh yeah. It's happened to, like, I would never say I've put out a song, like even with LRP or anything, and those guys are elite lyricists, where I felt like I got crushed. But there's definitely songs where it's like, oh yeah, he had the best verse. And I'm okay with that. There's times where it's like, if I just rewrote it, I could have the best verse, but like who cares? Like at the end of the day, everyone has their time to shine, right? And it depends on the track. And like there's songs that we've done.
You also don't have 3 tracks under your belt. Like you have a discography.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
like you could be collabing with somebody that's trying to accomplish something that you did 2 albums ago, and that's just not the way that you're on at this point. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Been there, done that kind of thing.
That's a big part of being prolific with how you create. It's like when you make a lot of music, you kind of get tired of doing the same thing. So every project, I kind of want to do a different thing. So if I barred the fuck out on this other one, it's like, let me switch it up. I'm gonna sing more on this one, or I'm gonna have a different structure on this one. Like, you know what I mean? So it really depends on where I'm at creatively at the time. And I make a lot of music because I have a studio at home, and because I do engineering as my main job. So I'm able to work at home the majority of the time. So I have my life set up in a way that facilitates being able to create a lot more than most people. So people clown me all the time.
Is there anything that you feel like you can't create? Like, is there a lane that maybe you've tried and you just feel like, man, this isn't for me, I can't do this successfully?
Probably, yeah. I would say like the poppy shit. That's the only lane I would say I not that I can't, and I do have elements of songs and stuff that I think are like borderline kind of poppy, but it's always done in my way. I would say like I have a very baritone kind of gnarly voice, kind of raspy voice that doesn't really suit, like, put it this way, if I tried to do a Drake type track and I was talking about buying fancy shit and everything, I just don't think that, number one, that'd be inauthentic for my experience, and number two, it wouldn't sound right. So I would say like that the kind of like pop rap lane is the one lane that I would say nah. But everything else in terms of like different genres and stuff, I feel comfortable stepping into, as long as it has a degree of like grit and authenticity to it, in the sense that it's not like all glossy and poppy and shit. That's the one thing I don't think I do well. Not that other people don't.
And so then is that, based on what you just said, it sounds like it's not a goal to master that. It's more like, cool, that's not for me. Let me perfect the stuff that I'm good at.
Exactly. It's not my goal to master it because I don't even like listening to it. So why would I want to master something I don't even fuck with?
That's totally fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. And like I said, this leads back to the other conversation with like, do I make it for the masses? Do I make it for the niche? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's interesting listening how this, like, down the line, 1 equals 2 a lot of the times. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, absolutely.
It'd be weird for you to be like, nah, man, I want to like, I only care about writing for like the top elite rappers that know the 6 layers. I don't give a fuck about them. And then also be like, nah, I want to make pop records. Like, it doesn't.
No, you can't. It's hard to do both, man. It's hard to do both. You ultimately have to sacrifice one for the other. And I think that's what a lot of like big mainstream rappers have done over time. Like you look at like Jay-Z and Drake when they first came out, they were heavy kind of punchers. And then, you listen to a modern song from either of them, it's very simplified. It's very like not all of them, but there's, you know what I mean? Like if you want to pick that lane, you kind of have to make sacrifices. But yeah, that's not the pop lane is not something I don't think I would get involved in the pop lane on a production tip though. I actually have a dude that I do beats for and do mixing for that's just like, I think he could be a pop star. He's an incredible singer, kind of like Weekend-ish, kind of like almost like Prince-ish, but like very poppy. And like, so I can get involved with that kind of music on a production tip, but sonically, vocally, I just don't think I fit.
What is the current thing that you're working on getting better at right now?
Singing would probably be the number one thing that like I think I could improve a lot at. It's something I practiced over the years. If for anyone who doesn't know, I do a side project, a group called Blade Runners. And we do kind of like rock and metal and other stuff too, and like progressive jazz kind of influence stuff with live instruments. And so I picked up, we had a couple singers in the group over the years, and I've done a lot of singing with them, and I picked up some skills on it over the years, but it's something that you really got to practice. It's like emceeing. Like when I first started rapping, I sounded like shit. You really gotta practice it. You gotta learn it from the ground up. So it's something that that's something I want to keep improving at, because I do love melodies. I love harmonies. I love singing. It's just over time, you kind of improve your vocal range into what notes you can comfortably hit and everything like that. So I've seen myself improve gradually, but that's one thing that I think I would love to keep working on and getting better at for sure.
Absolutely dope. So on the interviews, I think I got over like 80 interviews from artists and people of interest on my channel at this point, from countries all over the world. This is going to be my first time interviewing, like I said, somebody from the Canadian hip hop scene.
Yeah.
So I think my question would be to you, from your perspective, to someone from the States or someone just from, internationally that's watching this. What in your opinion is unique to the Canadian hip hop scene that's either beneficial or detrimental, as opposed to being someplace else that like we wouldn't know from the outside? You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be here to understand why X, Y, and Z is a factor that may not be a factor in the Bronx. You know what I mean?
Got you. That's a great question. It's also a hard one to answer because I've only been involved in this scene. So I don't know if these same things happen everywhere. But it's very political in Canada, I would say. It's kind of about who you fuck with, who knows who, because I feel like they call it the screwface capital for a reason, like Toronto. I feel like if someone doesn't know you or doesn't like recognize someone who does know you, it's kind of a situation where like we don't give a fuck. Like, get out of here, bro. Like, who are you? So I feel like getting introduced to people, meeting people, creating relationships is like essential to even having anyone hear your music. And I'm sure that applies everywhere to some degree, but I feel like it might be amplified in Toronto for whatever reason. I don't know. It feels like a lot of people have a chip on their shoulder coming from Canada because maybe because the scene is less exposed here than in the States. So people feel like we're a little bro or whatever. Like they got a chip on their shoulder. I find a lot of like elite MCs in Canada deep down are super good dudes, super nice guys, but when you first meet them, they'll be like kind of cold and like standoffish, because I feel like there's always this, they feel like they deserve respect that they haven't gotten yet kind of thing. And even some of our biggest Canadian lyricists that are like renowned in Canada and people fuck with them huge here don't really have international exposure or even exposure in the States. So I feel like we have a community that needs to get out and be heard internationally, and that kind of like influences how people behave to each other here, because everyone's just kind of standoffish, like fuck you, if you're not benefiting me, then you know what I mean. So I feel like it could be more communal, it could be more people helping each other out. And I'm not saying like everybody, I'm talking about the people who respect each other's musical ability, need to help each other, put each other on and collab more and try and work together to reach out. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. Are you affiliated with like other like artists on the same level as you in Canada that like you would be like, man, it's crazy that X, Y, and the world doesn't know about X, Y, and Z?
Oh, dude, yeah, like so many that I don't even know where to start listing them. You can start with all the guys from LRP, of course, they're incredible, but
hit them up for me. Tell them, ask them if they want to come on the channel and dig into some shit. I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll hit up some of my other people I collaborate with constantly. I have collab projects coming out with a bunch of people.
100%.
So yeah, I've got a network of, I'd say like 50 to 100 artists just from Canada that I've connected with over the last few years that are incredible, and they're all similarly trying to get their music out there.
Who's number one right now? Like I feel like every individual bracket that I go into, there's usually a universal agreement that it's like, this is the top cat and has been the top cat for X, Y, and Z, and everybody else kind of like, You know what I'm saying? Like you constantly hear the comparisons to. Is there that person in Canada for y'all? Like in the underground scene? Is it just like Drake? Like what is the like? I'm not there. Like what is it like?
Yeah,
There?
no.
Like, you know what I mean?
The thing is too, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask because I kind of stay out of the politics so much that I don't really know. It's very subjective, obviously, but obviously in terms of the big mainstream shit, it'd be Drake. But in terms of like underground lyricists, there's a lot of amazing dudes that don't get their due. There's people that have gotten international, like we have a lot of, put it this way, we have a lot of corny shit that comes out of Canada too. And I won't name any names, but there's some shit that blows up that it's like, what the fuck? And then that kind of taints the image of Canada as a rap country, you know what I mean? Because people expect a certain kind of style coming from Canada. But I think there is a very like dope Toronto scene for like authentic, real ass hip hop, like, and it's small and it's gated, and people aren't aware enough. And the only reason I'm not name dropping specifics is because I don't want to leave anyone out and disrespect them unintentionally.
I got you. Let me ask you a direct question then. Just this is to help me have a frame of reference. All right.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm rapper day one, just started. I live in Toronto, and
Yep.
you know, today's my first day in hip hop.
Yep.
And then the pinnacle, like you said, of the commercial shit, all the way at the top, 1 to 10 would be Drake at the top for being the most famous and commercially successful artist, right?
Yeah.
Where in that between 1 to 10 would you put Mercules?
Oh yeah, he'd be up there. He'd be up there in terms of international recognition, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say maybe 8 or something like that. Obviously, he's nowhere near Drake, but if we're comparing to other Canadians, I think
like compared to like the guy who just started up to the pinnacle.
Yeah, like let's say someone like me is like a 3. I'd say Merc's like an 8. He's like an 8. He's like right about on the edge. To be fair, I think his music's a little bit more niche than someone like Drake, so I don't think he probably is going to get to that level. But he's already blown up way past just Canada because he's connected with Snoop and shit, right? With Death Row and all that. So yeah, I would say he's about an 8. So I think, but I think the standards are weird in Canada because we have those few dudes like Drake and Weeknd who are so internationally massive,
right?
And then the people who are like right below them in terms of Canadian exposure are like levels below them.
The difference between 9 and 10 and is a whole nother
massive.
It's a whole nother gauge.
Exactly.
I got you.
Exactly. Yeah. So he'd be like an 8 or 9 probably, just compared to other Canadians. You also got like the Tom McDonald.
How about like in terms of skill though? Like would you have him? Is that like when you're looking at Mercules? Is that an 8 on terms of popularity and skill combined, or because you only really said exposure? Like I'm asking like the full package.
Well, now you got me in the hot seat. You got me giving opinions on dudes.
Well, I'm asking for it because that's my friend. Like I know I've listened to Merc for years. Like that's my guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I have a good understanding of his ability and the styles that he like I have a frame of reference. So I'm just like, where does that like in the grand scheme of things? So if I'm like, cool, if that puts him at like a 7 in the grand scheme of things, my question would be like, name me 3 other people who are in that same skill range that can do that I would be into. Like if you know that I like this and this would be considered a 7 on your subjective scale, who else would you put in that range for us? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Oh. Yeah, it depends if we're
whole country on your back. No pressure.
Yeah, it depends if we're including like exposure or if we're just talking skill. Because if we're just talking skill, I could literally send you a list of hundreds. But if we're just talking exposure mixed with skill, then it's a small list because like we said, Merc's blown up relative to a lot of Canada.
Do you think is Mercules too blown up to be in the conversation we're trying to have? Like is that like aiming for like a Drake or for like a, you know what I mean, like something that's just
maybe a little bit because he's blown up to the point where I wouldn't even consider him like a Canadian artist at this point. No disrespect, like I feel like he's gone past that. Yeah, he's like he has an audience that's past that in the sense that like the people who are competing here in Canada like are in a different game still, I think. Because we're still just trying to get the local exposure to then get to that level. And he's an interesting story because I know a lot of it was those remixes that he did that just kind of like popped off at the right time and place. And
Well,
a lot of
I think what Mercules does is that he has the shit that we want to hear, but then he makes the shit that everyone wants to hear. So when they hear that and now they go and listen for everything else, now it's like, oh, he's not just making a Tiger King fucking song to be funny. Now I'm tapping into the discography and it's like, oh, there's actual music there. You know what I mean? That works in their benefit. It's not like he just puts out parodies that blows up and then nothing else ever gets a burn. And from again, like the very limited
I think that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. No, I think the gimmick was smartly utilized to bring people into the real music kind of thing. And that's kind of like viral marketing 101. He nailed that for sure. Something that's hard to do, man, because a lot of people, I know tons of people who tried to duplicate that, done like pop song remixes and stuff. And it just doesn't hit at the right time or right place. It's like he just, he captured a moment in time and he took off. So good for him, man.
But shout out to Merc.
Yeah, absolutely. And I met him before. He seems like a real solid dude. So nothing but love for him.
He's one of the first artists. I'll hijack the interview for just a second, tell you an anecdotal story. Yeah. When I first started doing reactions, my whole chip on my shoulder was, I think reaction channels are fucking garbage. I don't understand why anyone would want to watch somebody listen to somebody else's music. It's weird to me. I'm grateful for it.
I got
you. You would never believe. But it's not content that I consume. Like, I don't make content that I consume. I make content that I think others will appreciate consuming. You know what I'm saying? So like, my whole thing I'm older is like, man, all these reactors lie. They like you can't like everything as you hear. How do you have 100 videos and all of them are 100 out of 100 amazing shit? So that's why I created the whole idea of the scorecard, right?
Right.
Insert Mercules reactions. I've been listening to Mercules personally since the car freestyles. So like, this is someone who I didn't discover on the channel. And I just so happened to be reacting to one that I didn't like. And he comments on it, and like he's seen the reaction. And like, that was the moment for me where it was like, everything in the world, like, you gain a whole new perspective where it's like, these aren't just invisible entities that you're talking about. Like,
right.
This
these
is
are people.
like human beings who like put their time. And now, like, I'm worried, like, bro, how do I convince you that I've been a fan for X, Y? Like, this is just how I feel about this one song. Like, I can't say I like this song if I don't. Like, I don't have it in me. My face is gonna fucking tell on me like every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like,
that's funny.
Man, I wrestled with it for a while, man. But like, he's since then, like, he's come into a couple of my lives and stuff like that. We've chopped it up. Like, he's 100% solid dude as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, cool. So it wasn't like a big issue. It's just that's just funny though.
It was big in my head. It was big on my end. I freaked out about it, but I don't even think,
because you're like, fuck, you don't want to come off disrespectful, but at the same time, you're reacting, you got to be honest, right? You can't
exactly.
Because there are so many channels, like you said, that are just like ass kiss fest, that just like, you pay me, I post a reaction kissing its ass. What's the point? Like, if it's a reaction, it's got to be honest.
Not only that too, but like, when it came to those type of scenarios specifically, I think I fine-tuned the formula too much, right? To the point where I'm like, man, now I'm being an asshole for no reason. And it feels like you're being mean just for clicks is not any more authentic or better than liking shit just for clicks. And that Mercules, that happened when I had like 152 subscribers. This isn't like recent. Like, this is like a lesson I learned very quickly about who I wanted to be and what content what message I wanted my content to push out. You know what I mean?
Got you.
I have no idea why we got the Canada fucking sidetracked me with the whole.
No, it's
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think that is a huge balance for reactors. It's like you said, you want to be honest, you want to keep your honest opinion, but you also don't want to be disrespecting people who might actually be watching the channel that you could connect with, right? So it's finding that balance of like,
so I learned how to say, like, I don't say like, man, that's fucking trash as unless it absolutely is. Like, I no longer use hyperbole for something that was okay. I'm not like, why the fuck would you know what I mean? Like the language that I use matters. And I think it made me aware of it.
I think that's big in hip hop in general that people don't pay attention to, is like, because we do that as rappers, as picky listeners, as rappers ourselves, we're critical. And when we hear something, we're just sitting in the studio with our homies, we hear something we don't like, that's fucking garbage. Turn that shit off.
Exactly.
But it might not actually be garbage. It's just
75 out of 100 isn't garbage.
Exactly.
Like, that's a dope track.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, it's not garbage. It's just we use hyperbole to explain it because it just hits you like it stands out or whatever. But if we're talking about garbage, we're talking about someone who actually can't rap on beat, who can't even fucking
record it on a toaster.
Record it. Yeah. That's now we're in garbage territory.
Exactly.
And then that's something I've tried to work on as well personally, is because now that I'm kind of trying to become like more of a public figure, and in my opinion, people will see it and debate with me online and shit. I've tried to rephrase, like, your words really do matter. Like, even when I talk about a big rapper that I might disagree that, like, oh, I don't like that song or something, I try to phrase it like, I don't like it for the X, X, and X reasons, not like this is fucking garbage, fuck this shit. Because at the end of the day, if 5 million people enjoyed it, it's probably not garbage. You know what I mean? It might not be
for me.
Might not be for me, and it might not be the best thing ever made, but I got to be careful with how I phrase it because I'm not trying to imply that it was poorly made or something like that.
Exactly. And that's why I got the scorecard. So it's not like, hey, like, what do you mean 75 out of 100? Like, you can see the breakdown. Like, now, like, I admit, like, the beat was 15 out of 50. His flow was fucking incredible, right? Here is where I, as a consumer, was lost. Here's where you know what I mean? Like, that's the whole point of that. It's kind of like, man, I can't, so many reactors will listen to a whole song, not say a word the whole time. Like at the end, stop it and be like, that was fire. Who else do you want me to listen? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, or that was dope. That was trash. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what aspect of it did you like? You know what I mean?
No, I like the scorecard idea because then regardless of the subjective stuff, you always are going to earn points if something is well produced and well made. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't fuck with the style on a song, someone might still get a 15 out of 15 for the beat and the mix or something like that. So they're still going to get points.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good balance where you can, like, break it down sequentially, show what you're doing well, what you could improve on, kind of thing.
And the reason, the first thing on all my scorecards is trying to shape your understanding of where my opinion comes from. So the very first thing is it my first time listening to them? Am I already a fan of their music, or am I undecided? Like, that matters.
That matters a lot.
That matters a lot.
Yeah. It does matter a lot.
Once you already like somebody, once you're already in, once you know the background and stuff like that, you're willing to let a lot of shit slide.
Absolutely. And the music, like, sounds different to you when you fuck with somebody. When you fuck with somebody, it sounds completely different. When you have a chip on your shoulder about that type of person, or you don't know who the fuck they are, it's a random person, you hear a song, you're gonna automatically be a little bit more critical. It just is what it is. It's just human nature. So that's why I want to try and do interviews. That's why I want to try and have people get to know me a little bit, because I feel like they're a lot more willing to expose themselves to your music and your catalog if they actually know who the fuck you are, know what you're about, know what you represent, know that you're a decent human being on top of the music. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people make music and they're fucking real life dickheads.
So. Twitter made me stop listening to some of my favorite artists.
Yeah. No, it happens all the time too, where I'm like, don't meet your heroes. I have conversations with people I look up to, and they're like, damn, you're a fucking idiot, or you're an asshole.
Bro,
Jesus.
It's crazy. I miss when celebrity had mystique to it.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
I mean?
Yeah. Because at that point, if someone had a fucked up opinion, at least they just told their little homie and you didn't hear about it. You just got the music.
You'll hear it from a third person on an interview on TMZ 20 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's hearsay. It's not this person being like, fucking, dude, I've had some people like literally go from having multiple songs on my playlist to like, I feel dirty supporting
that.
this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I feel that, bro.
I'll give you a perfect example. I'm willing to drop names. Like, these are the combos I like.
Let's go.
I was a very, very fun-loving fan of Montana 300. I don't know if you're familiar with his music or not.
I don't think I am, but I recognize the name, so I may have heard it. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
But
he has, you know how you were like, man, I don't write for every single line of everything to be like a bar?
Yeah.
He makes music that is the exact opposite. Like,
very bar heavy.
Sometimes to a detrimental degree, to where there's no like, doesn't matter how corny it is or how cheesy it is. There's a simile here. There's, you know what I mean? There's a simile here. There's like,
I got you.
But it's a lot of times it's funny and it's enjoyable. You know what I mean? It's really vulgar. He has a song called like "Fuck My Brains Out," where it's literally like a 6-minute song of him just talking about doing nasty shit to this bitch, but it's funny in the way that he does it, right?
Right.
I go online on Twitter and he decides to make like a whole stance and rant against sex workers and about OnlyFans and what makes a woman worth something versus what doesn't make her worth something. And like none of that shit flies with me on like a visceral level. You know what I mean? Like what the other part, what I do besides music is I promote sex work. Like I've interviewed on here. I have a beautiful interview with Darcy, who works at the Mustang Ranch, which is a brothel in Nevada,
right?
Where she like we interviewed and we walked through the ins and outs of like how brothels actually work in the States and like the laws behind them, shit like that, and how OnlyFans and sex. Like I've done a whole bunch of this shit with a bunch of people, and it's like I can't pretend to ignore this shit that I hear while still fighting for like women's rights to be whoever the fuck they are without being shamed. On the other hand, while this person is not making music or a funny bar about it, but like talking about like I would never let my son do it. You know what I mean? Like it's different.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Once it gets political, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame.
You mentioned Tom McDonald. I think like Tom McDonald. Yeah. What is your opinion on Tom?
Well, you know, I like to be as apolitical as possible, but I will say I don't rock with the exploitation of the culture to like directly try and market to an audience that would typically hate hip hop by like I feel like he exploits the culture essentially, and just as a listener, that's how it comes off. And not even to say his music is like objectively terrible or technically bad. Like his beats and his rapping's pretty good. It's just like the content and the way he frames it. It's like right on the edge of like borderline racist. In a way that I don't necessarily, you know what I mean? It's just, it seems like he's trying to play to a demographic for clicks and he's trying to enrage people. And it's kind of corny to me. It's divisive for your own benefit in a way that might actually cause divide in society and the country. And it's just a weird look, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I may have said that in a very roundabout way. I don't know.
No, I think you said it in you say the thing that people who are thinking on a level that isn't just like Fox News, like you know what I mean, like you're exactly. Acknowledging the thing that everybody can see unless you're wrapped up in it, and then you can't say it. Now, with that being said, I started out as a fan of Tom McDonald, right?
Okay, cool.
He has a song called Wish. He has a song called like Boom Bap 101. He has songs where he can rap his ass off. Like
that's what I mean.
Is nice. Like you know what I mean? Like people like. When people like, I like the arguments when I talk to people specifically about Tom McDonald, because people will say what they don't like, but then add other shit. It is okay to be like, man, I don't like the message that he delivers. It's not for me. I don't like political hip hop. It's not for me. But then they'll be like, what a fucking trash rapper. And it's like, now I know that you don't know what you're talking. Like this, like the message. But if you're gonna say the man can't rap, like you're wrong. Like, you're objectively wrong. Like there are plenty of people who can't rap.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? No,
I agree. I've heard stuff too where like even if I didn't like the song overall, I could tell he could spit and he could flow and he like the techniques there. I could tell it. To me, it seems like he had an idea for a song or a video or whatever that took off.
You're saying like, exactly what
and he's like, okay, now
this
now
works.
I know this works. Whether it's morally good or bad, it works and I need to pursue it. And then he just kept doing it. So, you know, it's up in the air whether it's a good or bad thing, but it worked for him and he's in an amazing place in his life, I'm sure. So, but it's not something I listen to.
It's one of those things where I ended up falling off when every song released was a political one. That's when I sort of stopped listening, right?
And it's not like I think you can make a political song or make a political statement. It's just when you pick a side to the degree that he does, because he's very right wing, right? Like it's become like he's the right wing white rapper.
Exactly.
At this point. And once you take up that mantle, you just completely divide people. And to me, that's not what it's about making music. I think when you make something personal, it can be political in terms of your viewpoint, but I think if you make something that universally people can relate to on some level, it's better for your soul. It's better for how it impacts the world and shit. That's how I look at it. So it's not saying it all has to be positive and happy, but when you pick a political side like that and just ride or die for it, I feel like now you're just part of the machine. You're part of like a political agenda.
So let me let's have a tough conversation. If we can cut this out, if you end up not wanting it to be on there, because this wasn't part of the docket.
Yeah,
but this is a good conversation to have. So like, the hardest question that I can ask somebody then is like, now you have a formulated opinion on this person based on the actions that they've done, and I think we can both agree on even grounds that more likely than not, the reason that things transpired the way that they did was based on success. Right?
Yeah,
if the first political rap got him torn apart and nobody fucked with it, I don't think we still get the same rollout of tracks that ended up happening, right? So my question to you at that point is like, do you fault him? Like, would you do, like, if you knew that you could, like let me put this in perspective fully before you give an answer. So I'm gonna clean it up. Like, if you know fully that if you put out a track, regardless of whether or not you believe in what you're about to say, but that you will be able to buy houses for your whole family off of that, how, like you said, like whether or not it's morally correct or morally wrong was like how you worded it, right? But it's like, from what perspective? Because if you're saying me as a man, my job is to provide for me and my people at the end of the day, whatever that ends up looking like, now, like, you're going to say I'm morally wrong, but my lineage is now taken care of and can just live life how they want to, versus like you're taking a advantage of a culture. You're taking advantage of the emotions of society right now, given the temperature of everything, right? But like, that's all that trend setting ever is figuring out what society is currently iffy about and then trying to manipulate. Like, so I'm asking you that with all of this taken into consideration, right? If you could do that tomorrow and you know for a fact that you will blow up, drop in White Boy Volume 2, do you do it, or do you?
No, I don't, but that's because I'm a self-destructive idiot. So I think I would stand on my principles over my own benefit financially. I genuinely do, but again, I didn't say it was moral. I just said whether it's morally wrong or right. You know what I mean? I kept it gray. I think it's subjective.
No, I got you.
And I agree in the sense that if you have a family, if you have kids, and your sole objective in life is to be a provider above all else, then like, how could you say that's morally wrong, right? But yeah, no, I think it's a complicated question because it completely depends on how you view the world. For me personally, I view artistic integrity as important, as what I represent is my legacy, is what I'm going to leave behind here is going to be this art and what I create. So for me to say shit that I don't believe for clicks, I wouldn't do that personally. At my own detriment, admittedly.
Can I ask you personal questions so we can frame this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you would you consider yourself having always been well off, or did you ever have a homeless stint or anything like that? Like, what is your
okay, yeah, no, I don't mind at all. No, I wouldn't consider myself well off. I grew up like relatively middle class, I suppose, but in terms of my adult life, I've scraped by. So I as soon as I was 17, 18, I kind of like got into music, and I started really focusing on that. So I sacrificed a lot of the time I could have been working, saving money, doing all that shit. I moved out of my mom's house, dropped out of college, and I really focused on learning my craft, engineering and producing, rapping, etc. So I sacrificed a lot of money for my passions. And so that's a sacrifice I continue to make my whole life. And it's kind of, now I'm in my mid-30s, my early 30s. I'm turning 32, so I guess early 30s. And I'm at the point where now I'm starting to prioritize getting my finances into a better place. But yeah, I've never been homeless. I've always been responsible in the sense that I've handled my what I need to. I've never taken advantage of people or fucked myself or anyone else over. But I've also never been well off in my life where I've had vacations, huge savings account, do whatever the fuck I want. I'm very limited in what I can spend, but that's by choice because I chose to prioritize.
You live living within your means instead of,
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I've always kind of found that I didn't fuck with about hip hop was the super consumerist shit, like the chains and the bling and all that stupid shit. Like I never found that to be something that I gave a fuck about when I listened to hip hop or when I wanted to be a part of it.
So with that being said, secondhand information based on the music that I've listened to, right? I believe Tom McDonald's background was that of an alcoholic who had lost everything and was homeless, and like from living in a car or on a couch or something like that to owning homes, right? Do you think, obviously, I'm not trying to like walk you into an obvious answer. Let me rephrase this. Like, obviously, that's going to have an impact on your perspective when making that decision on what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And where you're at when you make that decision. Like you having a roof over your head right now saying, no, I wouldn't drop that tomorrow, versus if you were sleeping in your fucking car and you didn't know where your next meal was going to come from, versus like, man, I just found this fucking get rich quick, which we know it's not. We know it's not.
No. He had to work his ass off even with that.
Absolutely. Like you're the worst artist that still blows up, still put a ton of fucking effort in. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as an overnight success. I'm not even trying to go into that conversation.
Gotcha.
But like does that go into your opinion creation? Like do you ever think about that next layer back, like the motivation behind why somebody does something? Or do you think just the fact that you were willing, because you standing on your morals, like you said, to your own detriment, do you view it as like, if you're like the second that you're willing to do that, it doesn't matter what the reasoning is, it's just it's not for me, I'm tuned out? Like, does that change anything for you looking at where it's coming from, or no?
It does in terms of my opinion as a human being. Like I would say my opinion on the art and my opinion on a person are different.
Gotcha.
As a listener, I don't care. It just doesn't sound good to me. On top of like the message, like some of the hooks and sonic things aren't my style. So that's like a completely separate opinion. But as a person, I have empathy for where people come from. And I think that definitely does factor into my opinion on somebody. Because like everybody's actions, whether they're fucked up or whether they're good or whatever, always come from a place where they came from. It's motivated by something subconscious or otherwise. And I definitely factor that in how I judge somebody. So like knowing where someone comes from absolutely factors in how do I feel about that person. I'm also a very forgiving person, and understanding something like that about someone definitely makes me understand it. So yeah, absolutely. I would say
last question to wrap up this segment, that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Let's say Tom specifically continue, because that's just the frame that we've already used. He continues making that music for the next 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. To varying degrees of success. And then he puts out like his last album. He's like, I made all the money that I want, so I'm putting out one last album. Now that last album is a album explaining what he's done throughout his career and why he did it. And like that album is whatever his beliefs really are, whether it is what he's saying or whether it's different. But like the message of the last album is like, I did all of this for these reasons.
Right.
Do you be like, checkmate, well played, that was good? Do you just assume that it's a cop-out? Do you like, does that change anything for you at that point? Because my whole thing, like my one last thing, just before you, I want to give you as much information on what I'm getting at as possible, right? I don't see anything like this comes in whenever people talk about selling out, right? Like the concept of selling out, like oh, this person's like, is it selling out if the idea is to amass as large of an audience as humanly possible under whatever premise you can get the ears listening to you? And then once you have the audience, be like, cool, I did what I had to do to get here. Now that I'm here, I'm going to force you all to listen to what the fuck I actually want to make.
Yeah, no, I think it depends entirely on your objective. I think, if your objective from the jump is to, like in the case we were talking about, like provide for your family, make as much money as possible, reach as big of an audience as possible, then congrats, you succeeded. Like that, you know what I mean? Like that's, you achieved the objective you set out to do.
It's not selling out if that was your original goal.
No, exactly. Selling out would be a thing where I stay like, okay, great example would be if we had this discussion that I had today where I'm talking about this like artistic integrity and all this, I don't care about being famous. And then 3 years from now, I start to blow up and I start making Drake records or making the kind of shit that I said I don't like. Then that would be kind of selling out, because then I'd be completely flipping the script on what everything I stood for. If you're consistent, I don't think it's selling out at all. And I think there's a lot of artists that blow up that if you listen to their early stuff, it's not even inconsistent with what they're doing now. So I don't think that applies to the sellout thing at all. I think sellouts when you straight up just dramatically change what you're doing to fit like a corporate label model or something, whatever they want to push. So I don't know. And even in the space of talking about Tom McDonald, again, like I don't know him or his political beliefs. So maybe everything he's saying he genuinely believes. I don't know that. So if that's the case, then how can you even tell him he's being inauthentic or anything, right? He could just be saying what the fuck he thinks. And it happens to also align with a political faction that is bigging up his music. But if it comes from an honest place, who are we to say anything, right? At that point. Not saying you can't say anything about about have a different opinion on it. I just mean in terms of judging him as a human being.
Bro, this is such a good hip hop conversation. It's weird how we got here, but like this is a good talk. Like I feel like there's a lot of like real meta elements that get put into it outside of like who's your top 5.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? This is dope. I appreciate you going over all this, man, because like it's good. Good combos need to go viral eventually.
Hopefully, you know that'd be awesome. But yeah, I think there's a lot of judgment in terms of looking from the outside. But and back to my perspective on things, I've really learned to separate my opinion on art or music or stuff that I listen to from the person. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. They're quick to just write off entire people or say they're pieces of shit because the song had a message they didn't like or whatever. I like to I keep it separate, and even my opinion on a message is different than my opinion on like.
Are you still bumping R. Kelly?
No, I to be fair, I was never a big R. Kelly head in the first place, so I didn't have to like have that internal struggle.
I got you.
But to be fair, that's a great example of like, can you separate it from what he did?
Right.
In my case, I honestly think I could theoretically if I really loved the music that much. But I wasn't a huge R. Kelly fan in the first place, so it wasn't difficult for me to not listen to R. Kelly.
Have you ever had to make that decision? Like, have you ever had to be like, man, this is someone who I am actively acknowledging that I'm separating the art from the person just because I enjoy this music and not because I approve of what this person's beliefs are?
Maybe there's some because we were talking about Twitter earlier, and there's some like underground rappers and some boom bap dudes that kind of get crazy on Twitter too. I'm trying to think about one that someone I grew up listening to that I saw their opinions on stuff or I saw them going off and I was like, ugh. Maybe Talib Kweli. I know he's well known for fucking ranting. Joe Budden. We've had that discussion a little bit.
That's a whole nother podcast, my guy.
So I'd say like.
How did I not go to that example? How is that not the one that I used? I dropped my own ball on that one.
Yeah, Joe Budden's the most obvious example of like.
Damn, that was the alley.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say like Talib and Joe, because I like both of their music a lot, but like when I see them talk or see their posts, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
Here we go again.
Here we go
again. I can't tell you how many text messages my brothers will just send me like, get your man. Get your man. Yeah, I'm like, you don't understand. Mood music saved my life when I was 21.
Yeah, exactly. No, mood music's amazing. He's a great writer, but like, fuck, man, it's crazy. Some of the shit he'll just go off on in his podcast, or just how he treats people in general.
Times change, man. Music, everything changes. What is your current what is your current approach to music? Like, what do you have an idea when the next project you're dropping comes out?
Yeah, I have 5 projects this year that I'm hoping to release. They're all collaborative with different producers and MCs. Okay. So I have a project with a dude from Ohio, in the States, from Ohio, called his name is Mantis, and that's probably the soonest project that I'm going to be dropping at the end of February or early March. First quarter, and then like kind of in the summer or like beginning spring area, I'm going to be dropping a project with Philly Rags from LRP. He's like Nate Dogg for you guys. I don't think I've ever heard him like bomb on a hook ever.
Like
No,
that dude,
he's so good. He's
that
so
dude
good.
just makes everything sound good.
Yeah, he is. He's like Nate Dogg if Nate Dogg also could rap his fucking ass off. So it's sick. It's sick having both. And then yeah, so our project together we actually made during the LRP days, and that's a whole story. But essentially, we made a bunch of collaborative EPs with each other with the idea that we were gonna have this like Wu-Tang type of rollout.
Right.
Dude, I don't know if you were around back then, but Wu-Tang came out with the group album. They garnered some attention. They start putting out all the individual members to shine.
Right.
So that's kind of like the original idea we had with LRP. Unfortunately, things happened with like COVID and everything, kind of stopped that from happening. But so I got a lot of stuff in the vault with those guys. So the one with Philly is actually going to drop finally, thankfully. And then I got some stuff with a producer named Scythe, another artist named Eddie Jones, also from Toronto, from out here. I got another album with him. So I got a lot going on, to put it lightly. And the idea isn't just to flood the internet with content. Like I genuinely put a lot of work into all of these. And because I feel like from the outside, when you see someone that's dropping so consistently, they probably assume I don't give a fuck about it and I'm just slapping them out. But a lot of these projects that I'm dropping were in the works for years. Like,
Gotcha.
Like the Philly one, some of it's 4 years old. And we've been chiseling away at it. So it's not, none of this shit is just like me throwing stuff at the wall or just slapping shit out. It's stuff that I've been chiseling away at over time. And now I'm just trying to release consistently and grow a fan base. That's really all there is to it. I just want to reach more people and have people be exposed to what I do.
Walk me through the project that's dropping first quarter. What is like the vibe? What's the intent? Who's the target audience for it?
Okay, so the one with Mantis, I would say it's very backpacky, if that makes sense. I don't know.
My audience will get that.
I don't know if y'all know what I mean by backpacky. Like it's right on that like precipice of like hard and nerdy. Because my man Mantis he's a super dope MC, but he references a lot of stuff like cartoons and like anime and shit. And so we have like influence from movies.
Bro.
Yeah, right. Shit like that, where it's like you're pulling from your like, so it's a cool, like fun intersection of like we're rapping hard, the beats are fucking moody, kind of dark, but like we bring a lot of like our own characteristics to play. So I'd say it's like kind of in that backpack underground lane. The one with Philly following that is much more, I would say it's less like underground backpacky, because there's a lot more singing, as you know, because Philly's a great singer. And it's more like anthemic, and there's like big choruses and stuff. So yeah, like each project has a different lane entirely, really. And that's kind of what I like to do with music. It's like I set an idea for a project that's going to sound a certain way. And then when I finish that and I put that out, it's like, okay, I need to do something entirely different. And that's kind of how I move. And both of those projects I mentioned are entirely produced by me. Some of the beats
go.
Yeah, some of the beats date back to like fucking 10 years ago too. So I've been making a lot of songs by digging beats I made in a drunken stupor 10 years ago and just
polishing them up,
giving them a little remaster on the mix, and then slapping new vocals on them. Yeah. And that's one thing I will say why I think I actually lean towards producer over rapper in my own case, is because the first beat I ever made was dope. The first rhyme I ever wrote was fucking garbage. I had to work harder to be a good rapper than I did to be a good producer. That's all I'll say. Like producing comes very naturally. I just have an ear for it. Whereas like rapping, I developed the ear for it. I developed my vocal tone and understanding of what sounds good. That took a lot of work.
That's fire. You got to check out, I have a clip on here from an interview I did with Alpha Ogini. Alpha Ogini, he's from Nigeria. He's an artist / sound engineer, producer. You don't gotta watch the whole interview. We did a huge interview. It was beautiful. We did a deep dive on his mental health and breaking through boundaries with fucking just like getting rid of the machismo out of shit. You know what I mean? Making sure that we're putting our health first. But my favorite portion of it, and I clipped it, and it's by itself under interview clips on my channel, where he does an entire segment where he walks us through every terminology that a producer or sound engineer has. So it's like so many like people will just say everything is auto-tune. Like as soon as I hear something on the voice, it's like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
also like you don't know what a plugin is to even start going into like all of the different niches of what it is. Like you're talking about pitch correction.
Absolutely.
Everyone just calls like, and he literally went through like, this is what a hi-hat is. This is what it sounds like. Makes the fucking sound. This is, and like everything that you can imagine, every term that you could go through and like educates the whole gang on it. It's super fucking dope. I would love to hear your opinion on that as somebody who fills that same role of rapper, sound engineer, producer. You know what I mean? And it's not a long clip, but it's, you should definitely check that one out. That will be interesting to hear your feedback on that.
Absolutely, send that over. And I'm the same way in the sense that like I'm always down to share shit that I know. I feel like some engineers, like even when I first started rapping, I wasn't an engineer yet, and I used to go to studios, and you'd like record a vocal, you'd hear it back like completely raw, unmixed, and then like wait like a fucking week to get a mix back. When I have people into the studio, I mix in front of them. I'm showing them what I'm doing to their voice. Like I'm completely transparent in how I work. Even when we work online and people send me files, I'll tell you exactly the plugins I use to mix your voice and shit. Like
bro, if you recorded that, you could probably pop off an entire social media series just on that premise of like, let me tell you what I'm doing while I'm doing this and show you how.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just feel like there's no reason to like gatekeep knowledge, and a lot of people in music want to do that. It's like, oh, I know something, I can't fucking let anyone know this shit. Like, nah,
bro, start off with like a minute clip of a track, then you cut to like, here's all the shit that I'm doing, and then do like a side-by-side comparison of this is how you take this to sounding like this. Like that would be fire. Like I can't do that, but like who you have the ability to do it, like that sounds like that sounds like something I would tune into just to see like, man, look at all the shit I can't do.
And I'd say the people who record with me or like work with me are spoiled in the sense that they never hear their vocals raw ever. Like I play it, I build presets for everyone's voice.
They think they sound like that.
They think they just sound like that, but I never play them the raw shit that sounds horrible. I can't stand it, so I just immediately use a preset and then start tweaking it once they're gone. But yeah, that's how I move for sure. Fuck,
that's fucking dope. 2024, we got possibly up to 5 albums from you that are dropping. First one as soon as this quarter. We got are we expecting you to participate in any events from the gang this year? You're going to be back into the GSGC come October and everything?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm open to whatever, and I'm definitely down to hop back in the ring. I'm gonna be trying to win it this time for sure. I won't use that bar that you didn't like. What was the one? The fucking, I said some stupid shit. But yeah,
hotter than a furnace in hell or some shit like that.
Yeah, some stupid shit like that. Yeah, I'll make sure
hot like fire,
hot like a sauna.
Yeah, something like that.
Cold, it was one of them. Cold like ice or some shit.
Yeah. It's one we don't do that. We don't do that over here, my guy.
No, fair enough.
That's a producer blunder. That's the producer side of you coming out just because it fit. That.
Yeah, I think it was because it fit the scheme, and it was like the multi worked, and I didn't even think about how trash the setup was. It just that's something that happens that I will say because I don't write for a long period of time. Like,
absolutely.
If I was going over it and combing over it, I would flip those setup bars so that everything is a bar. But sometimes when you're writing fast, you don't even catch like, oh, the setup was kind of weak, whatever. At least the punch hit. But like, if you know what I mean, if you're combing over it over and again, like you would in like a battle rap setting, then you're gonna make sure every word hits the same.
I'm not gonna open that can of worms. I'm gonna keep you here for another 2 hours. We start getting into the battle rap stuff.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
I do want to give you an opportunity to like. Did you have any questions for me, the channel, or the gang that you wanted to throw at us? We're more than happy to answer anything for you from this side.
I have a question for you. I guess what do you look for in a song when you're reacting to something? What's your thing that you're mainly looking for? Because that'll help me kind of dictate in the future if I suggest you to react to something. I'll kind of have an idea of what you're kind of looking for, I guess.
All right, I would say if we're talking about pinnacle shit, like the shit that has a chance of getting 100 out of 100, all right?
Yeah.
Number one is always going to be the rah-rah shit. I'm a battle rapper at the end of the day. That's all I do.
Okay.
I love the rah-rah. Like if I could beat my fucking chest to something, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm there. You know what I mean? If there's like that, like if my face is scrunching up, like I'm in. Like that's it.
Okay.
Dark room music. Dark room music falls into 2 categories. I love super conscious shit that is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's a bar without being a bar. You know what I mean? I love that shit. Like if you can make my face crunch out without it being a fucking simile, like nah, like you're not like you were talking. Like that's why I like Loose Cannon's verse on that cipher, man. He said like they don't even they don't even like you. They just think that you're hard to fight. They just don't want to fight you. That's the only reason that you're here. Not because they're friends with you. They just don't want to have to go against you. Like when you hear shit like that,
Yeah.
like that wasn't a haymaker, but if you live that life, if you know what he said, like no, like that's a bar. Like
No,
my
that
guy's
makes
talking
sense.
some shit.
That
Like
makes
that's
sense. Yeah.
I
It's
like
real
that.
life shit. That real life shit. For
Exactly,
sure.
that real life shit. And
Yeah.
then the third thing that'll always be up there. I'm a toxic human being. I like nasty shit. I'm a big fan of in your life and in your actions. You should protect women. You should be fighting for equality and all that stuff. And then when my music is on, they are bitches and hoes, and I want to talk nasty about shit. And I will pick up the good fight tomorrow when we're back on our activist tip.
That's
But right
fucking
now,
hilarious.
I want to hear about getting my dick sucked. That's it. Like those are my lanes. It's like super toxic, rah rah, and real shit. Those tend to be the ones that already
I
put you
got
in that
you.
70 plus percentile before I hit play.
That's hilarious. Well, I was gonna
And
say, I remember the one that what was the joint, the LRP joint you reacted to that I think it was Broken Dreams. That was
that,
one of my that's one of my
that was your
favorite
more conscious one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
100%.
So
And like
that's
that
what
was I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but
yeah,
that's one
no.
of the ones in my head when I think of you. Like
Yeah,
I see your verse play in my head
exactly.
from that video. That's one of the ones that like stuck with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that's probably like the closest Lunchroom Poets track to like what I do solo. And that's why I felt so comfortable on that joint and why I think it stood out is because that's the type of lane where I really flourish, I would say. So I'll keep that in mind when I send you stuff in the future. That's good to know for sure. I unfortunately I don't have too much dick suck music, so or like crazy bitch hoe shit. So I'll stick with the real the real shit because I think that's
Look,
what I got most.
I got you. The second you get some bitches, you hit me up and I'm listening. I got you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Let me ask you this: is what could I improve on to make the reaction experience more enjoyable for an artist?
That's a good question. I would say, yeah, I don't know. Fuck, that's a really tough one because it's different for an artist and it's
No,
different
that's
for.
right. You heard it here, guys. I'm perfect. There's nothing to work on. You're
Yeah, there
all
you go.
welcome. You're welcome for what?
Exactly.
Not go ahead.
No, but you know what I'm saying. It's different for the consumer who just watches these, and it's different for the people who make music, right? Because as the people who watch reactions as a consumer, you probably don't want people pausing the beat, fucking the flow up constantly, talking about shit, breaking shit down. It kind of kills the flow of the video. But for artists, I think we appreciate that when you have to stop something to be like, oh, I get what you were saying there. I really like that. I'm gonna spin that back. So that's something that I feel like is probably something you have to balance, right? Because you're like, I want to show the artist love, but I also don't want to make a 15-minute video for a 2-minute song that people are gonna get bored of fucking dealing with. It's just like finding that balance.
Gotcha. I disagree.
Yeah.
If you think that not you, but like if you're watching this as a consumer, not an
Yeah.
artist, my message has been since day one that if you don't like how I'm doing something, suck my fucking dick. I don't care. No, I don't go for a balance whatsoever. It's my
Fair
channel.
enough.
I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do with it. Like I don't. What you just talked about specifically, every reactor
Yeah.
has to deal with for the first 6 months that they're on a channel. For the first
Got
6 months,
you.
every comment you get is stop pausing. You talk too much. Stop pausing. Why the fuck does he keep talking? Why the fuck? Like that's all that you get when you very first start, right? And like from that, there's only so many times that I could say suck my dick before it's all in my autocorrect. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, this all takes time to evolve out of. This is all shit I had to deal with before that whole Mercules moment. You know what I mean? Before I start thinking about bigger picture stuff, like what you just said is every reactor's existence for the first 6 months. That's all. You don't get nice stuff said about you. And to be fair, I look back at my old videos and they were right. I sucked. Like it was trash. I don't know why people watch this shit. Like they were right, but it's still like fuck you. Like nah. Like this is what we do here. Like
exactly.
nah. Like you said, I might be stubborn to my own detriment when it comes to that stuff.
Because I was saying, like, as an artist, I like that. I like when during your LRP reactions, you stopped it a bunch, you kind of broke down verses, you played it back. I like that because it shows that you're really listening. You know what I mean? And that's what a reaction's about. Like if you're just fucking like barely paying attention, why the fuck would you even react, right? So
Dude, I've seen reactors
yeah.
pull out their phones and be like,
Yeah, like
fucking
what's the
Xing
point?
while they're like, what? Like, are you serious right now?
Yeah, that's
Like,
crazy. Yeah.
I don't know, but like, I think if you were to poll people and ask if I make reactions for artists or do I make reactions for consumers, I'm pretty sure anybody who's watched me for any amount of time would say that I make it for artists. You know what I mean? That over consumers, which is why I don't have 6 billion followers either. You know what I mean? Like I could, there's definitely things that you could do to be more commercially successful. There's definitely things that I could do to be more commercially successful on YouTube. But like you said, a lot of that would be compromising certain qualities that I'm not willing to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to stick to your guns and what you believe in ultimately, or why are you doing it in the first place? No doubt.
It's like that, man. Any final gems that you want to leave us with for the gang? You want to do any shout outs, tell them what to look out for that you may not have mentioned, anyone that's interested, what like last thing too, also, I've never heard of you before. What track should I start with?
Oh my God. That's a real tough one. So first off, if anyone hasn't heard of me and wants to check out my music, go on Spotify, go to the album section, because I think I'm an album artist first and foremost. I have a lot of singles. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of singles, but I think you go to my album section and you click on one of my albums, you can pick it your will, any of my albums, and I think you'll get a very good balance of what I do and a better understanding of who I am as an artist. So that's what I would say. Go on whatever streaming platform or whatever and go to the album section and listen to a project. You can even skim through it. It doesn't have to be in order. It'll just give you a better viewpoint of what I do, because it's hard to express when you do a lot of different lanes and a bunch of different styles and you try to express different things. It's hard to encapsulate that in a song.
Like this is my best song, and it's like rah-rah shit, but the person was looking for something melodic.
Exactly. Like even Apex, that song that I sent you to react to, like that's an outlier on that album, and we talked about that. It was like that's like one of the only
it's the exception, not the rule.
It's the exception, not the rule. So that's like if I suggested that, then people would expect that going forward, and they'd be disappointed when they don't get that. So I feel like if you listen to an album, you get a better gist of what I do in terms of different sounds, styles, moods, etc. And I have a bunch of them there. They're all dope. Take your pick. In terms of my projects coming out, just honestly follow me on Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple Music, Instagram, Facebook, and you will be updated with everything, because I'm very good at keeping people up to date with everything that I'm doing. And that's what I would recommend.
Bro, I want to thank you personally for taking the time to come and fucking kick it with me today.
Absolutely.
Sorry for beating your ear off so long. We look like we went through a lot of this. We didn't even get to like half of the stuff I wanted to get to either. Like I'm gonna pick your brain again. We're gonna do this again now that we got like the intros and stuff like that out of it. And next time you want to promo a new album or something like that, we'll pick one of these other topics and let the gang see a little bit more of you next time.
Sounds good to me, man. I really appreciate you having me. And shout out to everyone who watches this channel. Shout out to all the people from different countries that I didn't even know had big blooming hip hop scenes, like the Nigerian artists we were talking about before. I think it's awesome that style of music has reached so far across the globe and has these passionate fan bases. Like that's one of the things I will say is I've noticed with your channel is when I look at the comments and stuff, y'all fucking ride or die for these artists, man. And it's something that I like coming from Canada, where people like you basically got to hold someone hostage to even like check out your song. That's crazy how much y'all like put your artists on a pedestal, ride for them, hype them up, show support and love. They represent your country and you represent them, and it's like a dope ecosystem of support. And I think that's something we got to apply globally to talented people and artists. But it's super dope.
I'm so glad that you caught them now, because it wasn't always like that on my channel. I used to get death threats every day.
Really?
Oh, when you don't like it's cool when you rock with someone that they rock with, right?
Yeah,
Before you have that rapport built, you know what I'm saying? Before you have that, they know that this isn't coming from a place of hate type thing, right? Man, I kept some shit in my inbox. That should humble you real quick, my guy.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing when you ride or die for
It's a
these
two
artists.
double-edged sword, man. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, you better not dislike it or you get fucked up.
Yeah, now they're good now. They're good now. They understand that this
Yeah.
channel is just about, you know, promoting shit that we like, not about bringing nobody down.
Yeah.
All right, that's will be it for us, man. Again, thank you for coming. Everybody, make sure you go check out his discography that is currently available. He says, obviously, pick an album, rock out with an album so you can get a full sense of the sounds that are be coming with. First quarter new music. Interview will be up. You already watched it. Doesn't matter. Check out the interview in its entirety if you're only getting clips. As always, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I will catch y'all on the next one. How's it go?
Good chat,
That was
bro.
that was fire, dude.